for those who don't know me, I'm Magdalena, and I'm one of the teachers here at Tara. I teach Tantra and also the women's groups. This is the first of the lectures regarding the elements and how we can get in contact and deepen our communion with the different elements. This is really important, and why? I mean, yes, it's good to feed our knowledge, but also when we're speaking about health, it becomes very important to understand about the building blocks of our existence. Many of you have heard about the term prana, and this is a Sanskrit word meaning life force or vital principle. And prana is the force behind life itself, and it's everywhere. Everything that we know, that manifests, that everything, the thoughts, the objects, everything, this is a result of pranic accumulations. In the physical manifestation, prana comes through the 5 elements of nature, which you all know of, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And in Sanskrit, we know these as the tattvas. And the tattvas manifest on different levels of manifestation. And we can connect to them in all sorts of different ways. So our microcosmic being, what's going on inside of us, is a brilliant pattern of all of these energies, a spectrum of all sorts of possibilities existing there. And in every moment, we have the capacity to experience the universal dimension of all these energies through the agency of our chakras, which act as portals of resonance, connecting the universal elements, the universal energies, with what is going on inside in our little inner universe that exists. So in these series of presentations, we will discover diverse methods in which we will accumulate prana through the elemental energies for accelerating our transformation on multiple levels. So as well as helping you to understand the importance of the different elements, for each of the elements, we will be giving practical methods how we can really resonate with the energies. And as with all things that we give as practice, they're there to be put into practice because it will bring a greater state of harmony and well-being into our structures. So, Earth is the basis and foundation of all the elements. We'll play now some images, and I want you to contemplate these images and really as if you're meditating with your eyes open and just see how you feel. So, looking at these images, I'm sure that you feel a sense of being connected to the earth, a feeling of being grounded. It's very stable, rooted, that you feel connected with some kind of force, or even a feeling of being connected with a living battery of energy that exists. Being connected with things that are rooted, earthy. And these are qualities actually of the earth elements. Those images that I selected are specific images which are very earthy, and which when you're there in those places, for sure you feel like you're full of the earth, full of the earth energies. So the earth element is really important for all of those reasons. It gives us a feeling of being grounded, of having the foundations with a strong base. It is the battery and the energy that we need. It gives us the roots that we need for our whole life to evolve, and forms a very practical and material base. Any process in the universe is sustained by a certain vitality. And therefore, if we're looking at the order of consciousness from what is limited to a more cosmic perspective, this first level of creation is the level of vitality. We need the foundations. We need this energy that sustains everything. So this earth is the foundation of all life in the being, and implicitly also in the macrocosm. It forms a solidity and cohesion. Now, why do we need the earth element for life? Well, imagine being without the earth element. You can probably imagine that most of us would probably just fly away. It's important because we need the roots there. The roots is what literally connects us to even ourselves, but connects us to the ground, connects us to the foundations of our life. We need good foundations. Can you imagine a house where we built the second floor and the third floor and the fourth floor and everything like that, but the foundations were really not very good? The house would simply crash. Yeah. So we need these very good foundations in order that we can have this structure in our lives, and to have this base through which our whole lives can evolve in a very structured, grounded, rooted way. Also, it's important that we have these good foundations. We need to have the earth element very strong on the spiritual path. We need a grounded approach to our evolution. Many people, when they start to practice spirituality, they really want to have these high states of consciousness. You know, they get very excited, exuberant to discover everything that is beyond. But without the foundations there, we will lack structure to make a very constructive and precise even approach to the spiritual path. It gives us the very steady approach which we need in order that when we make the first steps of our journey, for example, we need that steadiness there. Otherwise, we'll just keep walking off the path and getting lost in a way. So on the spiritual path, this grounded approach to our evolution becomes really important for us in order that we don't lose the journey that we're going on, but we stay firmly rooted on the path. Also, an important thing to understand is that the more that we're able to absorb the earth energies into our structure, the earth's electrical energies into our structure, the bigger the quantity of the cosmic energies that will flow in as well. So we need to have both because we want to access the superior energies, but we'll need to have the ability to also the ability to absorb the earth energies into our structure in order to maximize how much we're absorbing from above. And of course, vitality is sustaining our path. It's sustaining our journey. It is the battery that's keeping this journey possible and giving us the energy to continue it in the way that we do. So before we go further, I'd like to talk now about the bioelectrical field of the body and how the human being is intimately connected to the pulse of the earth, which we call the Schumann Resonance. So most people don't realize that actually we have an electrical system inside our structure. Most of the time we assume that electricity is something external to us. And electricity is defined as a fundamental form of energy that occurs naturally, for example, in lightning, or produced as through a generator that's expressed in terms of movement and interaction of electrons. So most of the time we don't know that the human body is actually electrically charged. And we think about it as something that is outside electric circuits, etc. But actually, if we look, for example, how an electric eel works, how an animal who's actually supposedly electric is generating large fields of current outside their bodies. And it's bioelectricity that's allowing that to take place. Also, when migratory birds travel great destinations at the same time each year, with this internal GPS that's inside them, that's because of the internal bioelectric current. And inside of us, our nervous system is based entirely on the ability to transmit electrical pulses. Every cell within the human body pumps ions. And this is due to the sodium-potassium pump that exists. And these ions are coming in and out of the cell for energy purposes, for making energy. And this can be found in all animal life. So in this way, our body creates bioelectricity through chemical electricity. And we use this a lot in medicine, even how X-rays work, MRIs, these are all types of scans, electrocardiograms. That's when they measure the heart using the sticker things on your chest. Even defibrillators are used to restart the heart. And these are all using the fact that we are tapping into, that we have the bioelectrical current inside of us. And we also have pulsed electromagnetic field devices, which are used to treat various neurological disorders, using, of course, also this bioelectrical field that exists inside of us. So our cells are designed to run in an environment of 20 to 25 millivolts. But to repair and heal, we need an environment of around 50 millivolts. And Jerry Tennant, who was the author of Healing is Voltage, states how health-giving electrons are either donated, charged, or stolen from each cell, designed to run at a specific voltage and frequency. Bad things happen when the voltage drops, organs don't have enough energy to do their job, and get rid of toxic waste. So we can see if the voltage is too low, the body simply doesn't function very well. So our bodies run on bioelectricity. And if we look at Chinese medicine, even it's very explicitly spoken about. So we know about the meridians in acupuncture, and these nadis or chakras that we speak about within the yoga, they're a sophisticated map of the bioelectric channels of the human body. And for example, at the bottom of our feet, we have kidney 1, which is in acupuncture is also known as the bubbling spring, right there. And I want you to remember this point, kidney 1, because this is one of the specific things that the points, for example, which is why what we're going to speak about later, earthing works so well. And why is it called the bubbling spring? Because that's where the electric currents bubble from the earth into our feet, literally. So it's a major energy point there on our structure. If you want, you can have a brief look at your feet now, just so you can locate it, because the image won't stay on the screen. Okay, so if you can just find it there, you'll remember it. So there is an intimate connection between us and the living world around us, and we're surrounded by all the electrical forces of life. But both the earth and our atmosphere are electrical, and there's a very dynamic relationship between the two. And this is known as to atmospheric physicists as the global atmospheric electrical circuit. And this flow travels from the sky to the earth via atmospheric ions channeled through the top of our heads and through our meridians down into the earth itself. So the earth is a really good conductor of electricity, and the earth's surface carries a negative charge. It's very yin on the surface of the earth. And grounding ourselves, which we'll speak about in a minute, we can receive an abundant supply of negatively charged ions from the earth, which has many healing effects. So the upper atmosphere is actually the opposite polarity. The ionosphere is mostly positively charged, or yang. And electricity travels with great facility through the ionosphere to the earth via lightning. Yeah. So the electrical tension or polarity between the earth, which is yin, and the ionosphere, which is yang, produces electrical activity in the atmosphere, and lightning discharges as a result. And every second of every day, there's about 100 lightning bolts striking the earth worldwide. And this produces specific global electromagnetic resonance excitation known as the Schumann Resonance, named after the physicist Winifred Otto Schumann, who predicted it mathematically in 1952. So we know the Schumann resonances as being the pulse of the earth. And the Schumann resonances are a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field. And they occur at several frequencies, between 6 and 50 cycles per second, specifically 7.83 hertz. And also 14, 20, 26, 33. So there's a range there as well, with a daily variation of around plus or minus 0.5 hertz. The fundamental Schumann resonance of 7.83 hertz appears to be the pulse of the Earth. And it's a basic harmonic resonance of the Earth. So if any of this sounds just too sciencey, we're getting to a point with this. And if you didn't get it already, the Schumann resonance is extremely important resonance that we need to connect with. So our brains and hearts are naturally attuned to this frequency, the Schumann resonance, and the electromagnetic frequency generated by human beings' heart is attuned to the vibration of 7.83 hertz. And this frequency is also around the border of the theta alpha brainwave frequency. So in fact, the first 5 Schumann resonances appear to be within the same frequency range as the brain waves in a human EEG. And that includes the delta waves, the theta waves, alpha, beta, and gamma. And the Schumann resonance activates the production also of a very important hormone inside of our being, the production and distribution of melatonin in the body. And melatonin is a natural vital hormone that regulates the circadian rhythms. It's the strongest antioxidant actually known. It's present in the urine, and it's produced by the pineal gland, which is associated with Sahasrara, the crown chakra. So melatonin protects against free radicals, protecting the DNA. And it has very many important functions, including the assistance and maintaining of the immune system and the regulation of sleep activity, including REM and deep states of sleep. And when we sleep, the body regenerates and heals the most. So there is scientific evidence showing a causal link between the decrease in melatonin production and the exposure to electromagnetic frequencies. And here we can see that the modern life is somehow obviously not being very beneficial to the amount of melatonin then we have in the structure, and also how we resonate with the Schumann frequency, because also related to some of the things like the disruptive nature of electromagnetic frequencies. All life forms adapted throughout time on the electromagnetic frequency of the Schumann resonance. All life forms adapted through this Schumann resonance throughout time. And when we're moving away from this harmonic field of resonance, we're faced with an increased disorganization inside our structure. And this will have a lot of neurological effects and also psychological problems. So we need to have a good resonance with the Schumann frequency for a state of harmony inside our being. When that is disrupted, then we have many neurological and psychological issues happening. And this can also trigger spiritual consequences because our brain is not functioning properly, and therefore it's more difficult to access our soul. And thus our spiritual evolution becomes impeded. So there was experiments done with this. In the 1960s, a Professor Weaver from the Max Planck Institute, he built an underground bunker, which was completely screened out for magnetic fields and the Schumann resonances. So when inside the bunker, you don't have access to those energies. They're blocked completely. And he put some students in there, students because they were young and healthy and they would be able to recover more easily. So he put them inside this bunker, and then he noted how they were feeling inside. They were in there for quite some time. What was obvious is very soon their circadian rhythms were very disrupted. They were very distressed emotionally, and they were getting all sorts of migraines and headaches. No serious health conditions arose, and because they were so young and healthy. And once the frequency the Schumann frequency was put back again, all the volunteers' health stabilized again, showing very clearly the importance of the Schumann frequency for maintaining a very good status of health, for maintaining our bodies and including our minds in a state of harmony and balance. The same complaints were also observed in the early astronauts who went into space, who were no longer exposed to the Schumann waves when they were out in space. And now modern spacecrafts contain devices which are able to simulate the Schumann frequency. So they will get their Schumann frequencies now because of this equipment. As long as the properties of the Earth electromagnetic cavity remain about the same, then the Schumann frequencies remain the same. However, especially in the last decades, then this has been disrupted, and it's been shown that there have been alterations in the solar and geomagnetic activity, and these things have pushed the Schumann frequency outside its normal range. And this resulted in abnormalities occurring, alterations in the brain and heart desynchronization, and changes in the brain's melatonin level. And this had physiological effects. So it was altering blood pressure, it was creating reproductive, immune, cardiac, and neurological problems, mental disorders, depression and suicide, confusion, increased hospital admissions, accidents and sudden death, as well as stress-related illnesses. Now, we can remedy this. We can remedy this by being out in nature and by connecting with the earth. It is so simple, yet so important for us to do. We can also remedy this by not spending all our hours in front of electrical and electromagnetic devices, and to really to counterbalance this with being in nature, with being in earth, within the earth. The Schumann frequency is essential for us for a state of balance, harmony, and even for healing. If we want to heal our structure, we need to resonate with the Schumann frequency in order for our whole bodies to be in balance, in order for the state of harmony to arise at all the levels inside of our being. So that's one very good reason, well, two very good reasons why it's good for us to connect with the earth element, to have access to the Schumann frequency, to the Schumann resonance, bringing all sorts of health benefits on all the levels. And also for the connected with that, have good melatonin production in our structure, which is one of the most beautiful reasons for having a state of longevity, regeneration also inside. Now, I'd like to speak on another subject now, very much connected with the earth element, and actually a technique in a way, but very simple to do. And that is about earthing and grounding. So what is earthing? Earthing refers to the physical connection that takes place between the electrical frequency of the human body and those of the earth. Just like the sun constantly provides us with important energy, nutrients, and vitamins, the earth too is a source of subtle energy that provides important elements that contribute to optimal health. And despite the human body's biological design as a natural conductor, many of us have misplaced our connection with the earth's energy. And this has had repercussions, it's having repercussions on our structure, simply because we don't understand the importance of being connected with the earth. And this connection to the earth can happen in a variety of ways. And the easiest is in direct, bare-skinned contact with the earth. And this is something that I've really been practicing a lot more recently and more consciously, actually recently. I like to be barefoot on the earth, but recently I became very much more aware of what's actually happening when we're doing this action itself. And I can actually tell you that I feel a very big shift in my life since actively and consciously practicing this, and feeling a state of, even in my emotional states, feeling a state of invigoration, like joy, like this optimism, feeling also very rooted and grounded. And I can say that it was very necessary for me, as I have a tendency to be a little bit ungrounded. Like if I'm in a meditation retreat or something like that, often I can't sleep for very many days because the energies are very strong, high, and somehow my resonance with the earth element maybe was not so strong at those times. However, through practicing grounding, I noticed very many beneficial effects, some of which I will speak about in a minute. So earthing could be seen as a kind of hippie thing to do, some kind of new age fad. But as I've discovered, there's a science behind it. And many people around the world, scientists even, have integrated grounding into their lives. So People enjoy to walk barefoot in the garden or along the beach, often experiencing a special sense of well-being. Now, you could argue, yes, it's true that being in those places anyway, being in nature, by the seaside, we're in a very natural environment, and the air is really good. It's full of life. It's not like full of traffic and pollutants, which is all true. But there is something also very special that happens when we have our feet rooted to the earth. And this is recognized by many spiritual practitioners. Yoga practitioners were saying, go and take your shoes off, go and practice on the earth. Qigong, things were saying, please go practice directly on the earth. And many times people were recommending go out, take your shoes off, go and feel the earth, go and do all these exercises or spiritual techniques outside, directly rooted on the earth. But why would that be? Why would it be so important? Why is this connection to the earth so essential? Now, the significance of barefoot contact with the earth has been known since ancient times, and the Native American elders have discussed this in their traditional storytelling, saying it was good for the skin to touch the bare earth, and the old people liked to remove their moccasins and walk with their bare feet on the sacred earth. They sat on the ground with the feeling of being close to a mothering power. The soil was soothing, strengthening, cleansing, and healing. And that was from a quote from Luther Standing Bear, who was a Sioux tribal leader. And even in the late 19th century, Back to Nature movement in Germany claimed many healing benefits from being barefoot outdoors, even in the cold weather. And in the 1920s, Dr. White investigated the practice of sleeping grounded after being told by some individuals that they could not sleep properly. So unless they were on the ground, unless they were sleeping on the ground, or grounded to earth, water, gas, or by copper wires. And White reported that sleep improved with all of these techniques. And he kind of experimented with this. However, these ideas never caught on in mainstream society. You could imagine to the normal Western doctor, that would seem a little bit like hocus pocus. But throughout history, actually, if we look at it, humans mostly walked barefoot or with footwear made of animal skins or moccasins. And they slept on the ground on animal hides. And we can see that recent research confirms the health benefits achieved by this lifestyle through the direct contact or through perspiration dampened and electrical conductive animal skins used as footwear, or sleeping directly on sleep pads, for example, which ground us, allowing this abundant energy to flow into our bodies from the earth. So through this mechanism, every part of our body can equilibrate with this potential, the electrical potential of the earth, by walking directly on the earth, lying on the earth. I'm sure, I don't know, there's lots of you here, but many of us have had this. And when spring comes, we just want to go and lie on the ground. We want to put our feet on the earth because we feel naturally that it does something, that it's really beneficial for us to do this. We feel really good when we're doing these things. Now, it becomes really important because we need to electrically stabilize the environment of all our organs, our tissues, our cells, our molecules. I'll explain to you in a minute why, and the science behind that. But unfortunately, we need to do that because a lot of our environment just doesn't cater for it. We are not absorbing the Earth's energies very well because of the different modern day things that we use. For example, synthetic soles on our shoes. It's very different from wearing moccasins, which are made of leather and are much more conductive. But the synthetic soles that we have are blocking the transfer of some very important electrons, which are coming from the Earth. Yeah, we said that the Earth was negatively charged. These electrons would normally absorb through the soles of our feet. And I will go on to explain this a little more. But having floors made of wood or acrylic and coated with the layers, stopping this conductivity taking place, and carpets made from synthetic materials are also non-conductive and build up static electrical charges inside our being. And during decades, stress-related chronic illness, immune disorders, inflammatory diseases have increased dramatically. And researchers have suggested that environmental factors are the cause. But also, we need also to look at the amount of electrical equipment that we actually use, which are also impacting our structure. And I just want you to remember this, because actually we'll speak a little bit more when we go more into the electric currents inside our structure in a minute. But basically anything that introduces cellular telephones, frequencies, electricity in our being is creating a change within our structure itself, which is not helpful and not useful for us. So currently there exists quite an impressive amount of evidence demonstrating the positive effects of earthing on physical well-being. And there are a lot of research about this, showing the benefits of it, and the science keeps accumulating. So science has long known that the Earth's surface, the surface of the Earth, which I've already mentioned, is covered with negatively charged electrical frequencies, known as free electrons, and they exist at the surface of the Earth. Physically connecting to the Earth facilitates the intake of these free electrons into the human body. So when we have our feet directly on the Earth, these electrons are flowing into our body, particularly through this point that we had on our feet, kidney 1, which is a big point full of nerve fibers where these energies can flow very well through. So one of the best things about earthing is it's so easy to do this. These energies can flow, electrons can easily flow up through this direct skin to surface contact with the Earth, or using an earthing device, which I will go on to talk about in a little bit later. So there was a gentleman called Clint Ober who decided, he was an American chap, he was the one that kind of expounded the earthing and the grounding science behind it. And he then did a lot of research on this, which also showed that grounding helps to, for example, ease inflammation and improve inflammation-related disorders, improve sleep, decrease chronic pain, increase energy levels, normalize the body's biological rhythms, improve blood pressure and flow, relieve headaches and muscle tensions, accelerate recovery and healing, and reduce jet lag. And it can also lessen menstrual and hormonal symptoms as well, amongst many other things. And I will revisit these things a little bit later also. So interestingly, Clint Ober was working for one of the largest providers of cable TV and was installing these devices in the US and also marketing them. And in 1993, he developed an abscess in his liver from a root canal job that had gone wrong. So he developed this purulent infection in his liver from something in his mouth, actually, that had not gone quite right. And this infection had gone through his whole body. And actually, it was so serious that the doctors told him that he needs to put his affairs in order, that he might possibly die. And at this moment, he kind of had a realization that there was much more to his life than this. And he, in the end, had some kind of surgery, which helped him a lot. But he made it his life mission then to find something that would change to make changes for other people, that would change the lives of other people. And he felt intuitively that there was something he had to do. So he left all his good life that he had, and he just went on the open road, being open, looking for inspiration of what could possibly appear in his life that could transform the lives of others. And in a certain moment, he suddenly had in his head, took some time, become an opposite charge. And that thought just wouldn't leave his head, become an opposite charge. He wrote down the phrase, and the next day he went to Sedona, which is a very beautiful part in America. And when he woke the next morning, he noticed the amazing beauty around there. But then he started to notice after a while that there was something not quite right. And he noticed that there were lots of people walking around who had synthetic soles on the shoes. And he was thinking, oh, you can be in this beautiful place. We're all wearing these synthetic soles. And why are we doing that? And he, of course, because he was a cable expert, an electrical expert in this way, he knew that well-shielded and properly grounded cable insulation delivered the highest quality image on the cable TV. But he also knew that these synthetic sols were not providing the grounding that people needed, because there was a big block taking place between the energies from the earth into the body. And he started to look more into this. He didn't know so much about human biology, but he occurred to him that the human body might not be so different to a television. So he put this theory to the test. He hooked himself up to a voltmeter, and he put himself in different circumstances. He walked around the house and he measured the electrical charges. And he noticed that when he was near devices which were not grounded, because on the electrical points, there's usually a grounding moment at Earth there as well. But those devices which were not grounded, he noticed that the voltmeter kind of showed some abnormalities there. He also noticed that in the bedroom was the highest place where the electromagnetic frequencies were at the highest level. So he decided to hook up to his bed some metal taping with a grounding, attached to a grounding rod through these clips that you use, which went into the soil outside. So in his bed in his room, he hooked up this metal taping, which went out through the window into through a rod that went into the earth. Now, normally he was using sleep medicine to help him sleep, and he also was experiencing some kind of chronic pain, generally speaking. After he did this, immediately he slept well. He continued to sleep well, very good since then. He also noticed that the chronic pain disappeared. So he also tried it on all his friends, and they also said the same thing. So here he hypothesized that a grounded body prevents electrical interferences that could disrupt the internal circuitry. And he began to understand that a lack of contact with the earth means the body's electrical circuitry is bombarded with electromagnetic frequencies and static electricity. So without this contact with the actual earth, he discovered that actually we're simply getting bombarded with frequencies and static electricity, and it's just staying in us. It's just building up inside of us. So he eventually managed to get a professor and some students to do some scientific studies on this. And the results were published in an anecdotal study on electrostatic discharge in an online electrostatics journal, showing the very beneficial effects of earthing and showing that actually this was working on all the students who were in the study. So it was bringing really positive results. So since Ober first introduced the concept of earthing just over a decade ago, a lot of scientific and medical experts have examined its effect on human health and wellness. And the positive results are pretty impressive. And the list continues to grow in science to understand the whys and hows of earthing. And one of the most important and impressive ones is the effects on inflammation. And the negative charge of free electrons that can literally calm the pain. And this was groundbreaking, as it meant that the pain is associated to the positive charges. So he was hypothesizing that actually all of these devices, all these electromagnetic frequencies, for example, were giving a buildup of these free radicals inside our system, producing this positive charge, and it wasn't being neutralized by the earth, the fields coming from the earth. Now, actually, you've probably all heard of free radicals. And most of us, we hear about free radicals as being something that, oh, it's not very good for the structure. Free radicals have a purpose, and they are there to be involved in the inflammation process inside our body in order that we can heal from different things. The only problem is if it's not balanced, then it goes into overdrive, and then we have inflammation processes, chronic inflammation processes happening inside our structure. Now, if we're not connecting with the earth, these positive charged free radicals are not getting balanced. They will try to take, a free radical is basically a particle that's missing an electron, okay? So this missing electron the free radical will try to take that electron from the thing that's causing the inflammation, but also will try to then take it from any other organs or cells that are around. So this is when the process starts to go on overdrive and creates this inflammation in the structure. Now, when we have the electrons coming from the earth, then this will balance the free radicals, will neutralize the free radical activity. And thus we won't have the damage caused by the excessive work of the free radicals taking place in our system. So walking barefoot, for example, earthing itself, becomes a great defense against inflammation. And inflammation has a huge impact on many conditions: allergies, inflammation, Alzheimer's disease, even anemia, asthma related to inflammation of the bronchial passages, arthritis, autism, cancer can contribute from free radicals, and then tumor growth as well, or contribute to also free radicals and tumor growth. Cardiovascular disease, inflammation can lead to unhealthy articles and damage to heart valves, diabetes type 1 and type 2, kidney failure, multiple sclerosis, where the inflammatory compounds attack the nervous system, pancreatitis, psoriasis, eczema. All of those things are inflammatory problems. It can also lead to excessive clotting taking place in our structure because due to this inflammatory process taking place. So earthing also has its effect of thinning the blood, minimizing the blood clotting. They did some studies looking at the cells after earthing, before earthing, and they saw noticeable results. So many benefits that they speak of, providing this relief from menopause and PMS, improved sleep and vitality, stress relief, bone density improving. So making the density of the bones thicker, which is often a problem that happens when we take medication. The bones can get thicker, some types of medication, for example. After menopause, bones can get thin. Maintaining healthy blood pressure and circulation, helping to lose weight. All of those things can be benefited from, or harmonizing the body from connecting, from earthing, because of this neutralization of the free radicals in our structure. So normally when a disease or injury subsides, these free electrons and antioxidants within the body neutralize and eliminate these excess free radicals that are there. Unfortunately, actually, due to the reality of our modern society, this isn't always ideal. An excess of free radicals within the body has become far too common. And this is due to, as I mentioned before, the electrical devices that we use, the type of artificial furniture, the life that we lead, the fact that we have synthetic soles, all of these things stop us to be able to absorb the beneficial energies into the soles of our feet and to neutralize what we have there, or make this buildup of free radicals in our structure due to these processes taking place. So earthing ourselves can help alleviate the presence of free radicals, which can lead to the chronic inflammation and pain because it injects the body with an abundance of negatively charged electrons for the free radicals to bind to. So we have a lot of these free electrons on the Earth's surface, and science is now has indicated that grounding fuels the anatomy with these electrons, which provide free radicals with a bountiful supply of negative charges, and therefore reducing all the inflammatory and oxidative effects that excess free radicals have on the body. And in 2005, an electrical engineer and electrostatic discharge expert, Roger Applewhite, published a study in the journal, the European Biology and Bioelectromagnetics, that confirmed a significant fact. When the body is grounded, electrons move from the earth into the body and vice versa. And this effect is sufficient to maintain the body at the same negative charge electrical potential as the earth. And study participants were grounded by lying on conductive bed sheets or by attaching electrical patches to various places on the body and using an oscilloscope to measure the voltage provided substantial evidence of the exchange of electrons between the earth and the body while grounded. And Applewhite and his team hypothesized that the mutual flow of free electrons from the earth into the body is the mechanism by which inflammation is obtained. There are many studies like this, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but you can easily find them. They're very much available on the global web with the beneficial effects of earthing. So how can I stay grounded? You can go for a walk barefoot. It's so simple. And now we're in spring. It's a wonderful opportunity to take off the shoes and just connect directly with the earth. It doesn't really work so much when you're walking along the road or just in your flat because of all the often polished and not so conductive surfaces. But putting your feet directly on the earth or the soil is very beneficial for having this grounded, conductive nature, for bringing the energies up into our structure. We have the highest concentration of nerve endings in the soles of our feet. And so it's extremely helpful that we have this there so that we can absorb these electrons much better into our structure, having this direct contact. It also helps if we can dampen the area where we're grounding with water, as this will increase the conductivity. Actually, concrete is highly conductive, but concrete is often sealed or painted with things which impede the conductivity. But often the concrete on the ground, on the basement, for example, of houses is actually quite good, or on the ground floor of houses is actually quite good for having this conductivity. Unfortunately, also, as I mentioned before, like carpets are, for example, blocking this energy quite a lot. Swimming in the ocean is also really great for grounding. And this is because of salt water's rich mineral content that amplifies the conductive capacity. And fresh water also has grounding properties, but salt water is best because of this conductive nature. And because of the nature in which we live, where actually walking barefoot or sleeping directly on the ground might not be something that we are able to do on a daily basis, or actually very often at all. First of all, Clint Ober decided to create some devices that ground humans while indoors. And these scientific tools have made their way into the home, and they work by connecting to the Earth's frequency through a grounding rod. So either if you live on the ground floor, you can hook it so it goes out through the window and then down into the earth, into the soil, or you can do it with a connection cord with an earth socket that plugs into the socket of the wall. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be turned on, but just the fact that it is getting earthed and is plugged in, what makes it work. Also, you can also connect some things to the radiator, because also there, if you remove the paint from the metal tubing, the pipes, this will also provide an earthing to an earthing, which will allow the energies to flow out. So one of the things that have been invented is something called an earth sheet, which is something actually I have on my bed, is a sheet that is connected to you connect it to the pipe of a radiator with the paint taken off it. Now these earth sheets contain silver strands, silver threads, which are enabling the conductivity, so conducting the flow of the energy out through the earth. Also, one of the things that I use is an earth mat. And this is an earth mat. I have the earth mat connected to the plug socket now. We're lucky in England because we have an earth in our plug sockets, but in other countries, they don't have the 3-pin. Yeah. So this earth mat is literally plugged in at the moment to the electrical socket. When I put my feet on it, I feel as if that the energies there is an energy flow happening in my structure. And I feel like it's there. I use it when I'm working with computers, devices, in order to bring this grounding there into my structure and to neutralize the free radical buildup from using the devices that I'm using, which are full of electromagnetic frequencies. Often you can imagine for all of us who are on computers all day, how useful this might be. And I've noticed a lot of beneficial effects since I bought the mat. It's so good. I bring it to work with me now. I really feel it very well inside my structure, and how it's been very good for keeping me feeling fresh and regenerated even after over 12 hours of working sometimes on computers in the day. Also, the other earthing products were used by, for example, the Tour de France, the cycling teams. They were using earth bags in order to be used if anybody had an injury. They were wrapped in these things, and they were then able to regenerate a lot faster so that they could then continue the race. There'd been some pretty horrific injuries, and which were actually, people wouldn't think they would be able to continue the race. And then they were wrapped in the earth bag and they were able to continue the race. And even their team actually won the Tour de France in the end, an American team. So it's starting to it is becoming more and more known, the beneficial effects of working with the earthing products themselves. You can even buy earthing socks, which means at any moment you can get earthed, or earthing bands, which mean that at any moment you can get earthed. One of the things I noticed when I was looking at earthing products, they recommend to make sure that you don't buy Chinese copies, because I think they were trying to copy them, but to look for the authentic earthing products. Yeah, they're better quality and they work better from this perspective. So anyone can benefit from earthing, whether as a form of treatment for different elements or a preventative measure to keep you on the road for optimum health. It's seen that women tend to respond particularly well to earthing, but I also know men who use this as well. And this is probably just due to the fact that we're more intuitive, we can feel better these things. The impact earthing has on physical appearance also is somehow something that a lot of women like, producing positive aesthetic effects, reducing pain and stress, wrinkles, bringing a state of rejuvenation in the structure has also been shown as. But also this making someone look radiant again was also one of the noted effects of using earthing, or the practice of earthing. Also, there was a famous case of an athlete who was doing a marathon and he had terrible blisters on his feet from his shoes. So he then decided, seeing how a lot of the African runners were running barefoot, he decided to do the rest of the marathon barefoot. He completed the race, but also miraculously at the end of the race, he also discovered not that the blisters weren't hurting him, but the blisters had almost completely healed, which he felt was due to the earthing taking place from just having his feet directly on the earth. Another beneficial effect of earthing is that it reduces the secretion of stress hormone inside the system. So this is also bringing a more restful sleep, improving the blood sugar and weight control inside the structure, and basically just keeping us much more relaxed. So it's said that doing at least 1 hour is very good for bringing the effects of reducing inflammation. But whatever you do, I would suggest is very important. I certainly noticed straight away when I have my feet on the earth that it's bringing a clarity, a sense of regeneration and rejuvenation into my structure very well. So I would not let it put you off if you don't have an hour free every day. Just do what you can and you'll notice that it is really helpful and really beneficial. And we can notice that our body can keep a certain equilibrium and good health in our structure. So Regardless of whether or not earthing reduces exposure to environmental fields, studies firmly demonstrate that earthing doesn't stress the body. In fact, earthing reduces every measure of stress we have that was used in the studies. And we have a lot of stress that is, as I mentioned, happening in daily life. So the fact that it reduces, that actually it doesn't stress the body and it reduces the stress that we receive from them is also showing some very important beneficial effects for our modern time. It is an overlooked factor in public health, earthing itself. And yet I believe that it has very strong repercussions on our good health in a very positive way. And as I mentioned before, there have been very many good effects and results and studies done on earthing itself and how important it is for us all. Good. So I would like us to do a little exercise now, just to connect with the earth elements. And I'll be using a piece of music that is tuned in with some earth frequency resonances. For this, I would like us all to place have if possible, our feet firmly on the ground. So if we can sit on a chair, that would be really great. And place our soles of our feet directly on the ground. We close our eyes. And I want you all to close our eyes. Yeah, if possible, without socks. Yes, better without socks. Socks are not very conductive. And we feel our soles firmly planted on the ground. We feel our legs like tree trunks, with the roots, our feet, absorbing the electrons and earth energy from the soles of our feet. And we continue to feel this flow of energy from the earth. Using the music as a support to help us to resonate with the earth energy, we feel how these energies flow from the earth through the roots of our trees, our legs, the trunks, and how we accumulate the beneficial energies of the earth. For a few moments, we keep our eyes closed. We feel more grounded, stable, rooted, earthed. And we slowly open our eyes. So if you have any questions,
Yeah, I do have one, Magdalena. I was just wondering, do you know where to buy any of the products from?
yeah. So who's speaking? Oh, it's Richard. Yes. So
Yeah.
I bought my earth mat from groundology.co.uk. And I bought my earth sheet from a company in Sweden because it's a bit more expensive, but it has higher percentage of silver fibers. I wanted to really go for it. 50% silver one from the company in Sweden. You can find, I think it's Earthing People it's called, but you don't necessarily have to have that amount. So, and Groundology also sells earth sheets. There's many companies that sell them though, so don't restrict yourself. Just look out that you're not getting a copy that's a copy that's not as good.
Beautiful. Thanks, Magdalena.
That's okay.
Hello, Magdalena. Can I ask you a question? You will mention, maybe I missed, Earth is connection which part of the organ?
The earth is connected with which organ?
Like a liver or
I didn't really mention. I mean, the earth element is important for the good functioning of our whole structure. And actually, if we're speaking about the physical body, because it's related to the physical side of things, and you could argue that a whole cell, a whole body itself is connected with the earth element. Every cell, every tissue, every muscle, the blood even is connected with that. Yeah, because it also is connected with the material world as we know it. Yeah.
But is Earth, is a connection with one of chakra, Muladhara chakra?
Yes, it is related to Muladhara chakra. Is the element connected with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it means if I feel I blocked my Muladhara chakra, so I just better connection with the earth, take off the shoes and walk in 1 hour.
That's one way. Yeah, that's one way. That's one way of doing it. There are other ways also to awaken Muladhara, but this is one way also that is very useful and helpful for this. Grace.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Hello.
Hi, Grace.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question. Does having pets and pot plants in your house help with earthing?
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it does. I also have lots of plants in my room, and I feel a lot the effects from having them as being very beneficial. I mean, in terms of putting you can't really put your feet in the pot plant, which is obvious, but for the connection with the element of earth, it is increasing our resonance with that somehow. Although I would add, I mean, I definitely have noticed like a lot of benefit from just going out straight in nature itself and not just relying on my beautiful potted plants to keep me happy. Pets, yeah, because I mean, also they're very grounding to have something that you can care for, and it's there also. But still, I don't know if I wouldn't call it a technique of earthing as much as I would call the classic techniques that I've mentioned today. So
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
Yeah, I've
Normally,
always-
oh, sorry, Alina. What were you going to say? Who spoke?
it was me. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I've always noticed that I feel a lot better when I'm out in nature, especially when I'm living out in it. And
Yeah.
a lot better, and the sort of further out, the better, really.
Who's speaking, by the way? I
it's-
can't. Oh, Sally. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Sally, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, do you think that within a house or a flat, or do you think the close? I'm on the ground floor. Do you think it has to be the earth in the winter, or is it the closer the better? Because I actually noticed once I had to sleep in the living room for quite some time, and I was on a mattress on the floor, and I slept so much better. The floor's concrete, I mean, and the carpet's wool. Or do you think that it's only direct contact with the earth, really?
No, I mean, so direct contact with the earth is like the most really great thing to do, but obviously in the middle of the winter, it's not very practical. And obviously also in the middle of summer, it's not very practical to just go out in a park or camp in the garden, you know. So we have to make do with our circumstances. And yes, if you notice that you have to also experiment. If you notice that you sleep better on the ground, many people find that they sleep they sleep better on the ground floor than higher floors of wherever they live. Then you know, it shows the importance of how much you need the earth element there. And the higher that we are living up in these flats, actually the greater the changes in voltage that's taking place. So we have to compensate in a way for the high rise living by going out and doing these things, or getting some earthing equipment if we notice that we're not in balance.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Martina.
who's speaking?
Yeah,
Alina. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question, and it's regarding about we mentioned about being with our feet on the ground. What about being with our hands on the ground? Like I like to do a lot of potting, planting, gardening.
Very good. Excellent. Very good to do. It's just that obviously we can't go walking on our hands everywhere. It's something practically we can do easily by putting our feet on the ground. Yes, it's very good to put our hands in the earth. Also, yes, your job is doing this, so it's also a good way to connect with nature, with the earth itself by doing this. Yeah, it's good.
Hi, Magdalena.
Hi.
It's Danielle. I just wanted to say thank you. I actually bought one of those sleeping sheets like about 4 years ago, and I used them for a long time, and then for some reason I stopped using them, and this was really nice because it reminded me, and then I went to find my stuff and I found the sheet, and then I just put on my bed now. But it is interesting that I remember I bought one of these socket testers, and it actually gives you the lights to check if your plug is working on the earth thing. And it's interesting because I didn't know if it actually really worked, but I tested around this new place, and then one of the sockets, it shows it doesn't work. So the one close to my bed, it did show the free lights, which suggests it's actually working, the earthing thing. So I just thought I'd suggest the socket tester if you're using one of those things.
Yeah, most of the sockets in UK will be, but yes, this device, I mean, it shows that there may be some deficiency in some.
In this house, yeah, not all the sockets are working, just in case. But thank you, it was really useful, really nice also. And now I'm using my sheet that I have. Thank you.
Good. I like my sheet too. I sleep every night with my sheet on. The sheet, Michelle, is different. The sheet is more like a bed sheet, which is, which I then connect with the pipe of the radiator. I'll also connect it with the electrical circuit. As I said before, it doesn't have to be on, it can be off and it still works, and worked as well. And the only reason I hook it onto the radiator is because the company I bought it from says it was a bit better to hook it onto the metal piping of the radiator than the electrical circuit. That's why I'm just taking their advice. Could you please clarify how much time to spend grounding out? Oh, and I also use my grounding map as much as I can, because I feel so much from it. It's so great. Yeah. And I also go grounding every day because it's so good. I make a point to go out in nature before work every morning and just with my feet on the earth. It's really good to do that. So Romilly, it's said that 60 minutes of grounding with our foot on the earth is very good for healing chronic inflammation. But I believe that any amount that we spend grounding is beneficial for all sorts of different reasons. We should just do whatever we can, and it will bring results in whatever way that we need. So if you really get into it, you'll find the time to spend more time with your foot on the earth. Like, you know, it's easy for us to take our shoes off when we go to walk in a park, actually, if we just realize that there's benefits from doing it. Or now it's summer, we can go, or spring, sorry, we can just go and practice. Do your standing postures at least with your feet on the earth instead of in our rooms. I never tried the ground socks yet. No, but you also have grounding yoga mats. I've never tried that either, but I'm quite happy with my sheet and my pad and my mat here. You're welcome. Is it clear? Anybody have any questions or any experiences in the meditation? Could you feel how the earth element is, how it made you feel?
Yeah, I thought the pictures that right at the beginning were really good, sort of very relaxing. There's one that I think you had of the mountains. I thought that was really lovely, just sort of very calming and relaxing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There is a reason why when we go out in earth, we feel so relaxing. And it's also because the parasympathetic nervous system is very much stimulated in these places, also connected with earthing. It's really a way to really de-stress. Yeah, and notice that I put Stonehenge in there. Stonehenge is actually the strongest, one of the strongest sources of telluric bioelectric energy on this planet. Therefore, it's a very good place to recharge and to regenerate spiritually as well as physically, which is very lucky that we have such a place in England. And actually we have many amazing places in England to go and do this. No, you can't overdo it. And Veronica, you can't overdo it. No, go for it. Where can we buy it? Again, Groundology, this company sells them. But you do your own search. I don't want to promote Groundology. It's just the one I bought from. I'm sure there's other good companies also. Yeah, you'll find them. It's easy to find. Look up grounding products, earthing products. You'll see many things coming up.
I think having wooden furniture instead of metal furniture and so on is quite good as well, don't you?
Yes, yes, definitely. Just that some of the metal, some of the wooden is varnished, which is making it not conductive. And wood is also not so conductive, but it is good to have it. It is grounding in a way to have, rather than just plastic stuff everywhere. Also, when we're on an airplane, which is probably one of the most toxic-ish environments to be in, what is really helpful is to put your feet when you're sitting on the airplane, bring an earth mat, but if you don't have one, anyway, you have nowhere to plug it in, but to put your feet barefoot on the metal of the seat in front of you, yeah, because this will also provide some earthing there. So this metal part of the seat directly in front, but without your socks on. Yeah.
Magdalena, sorry, you haven't mentioned, I thought that you're gonna mention something about the earth signs and the grounding. Is there any direct correlation to this? I'm not sure if you said anything.
You mean the Earth zodiac signs?
Yes, and this.
I mean, well, I wasn't going to say anything about them, but I suppose the Earth's zodiac signs would be ones who are more easily having a good resonance with the Earth element. So often because of this, they have a good vitality often, and they're often more grounded and stable, and having this force, inner force there also. But no, I wasn't going to specifically speak about the zodiac Earth elements as such. But actually, interestingly enough, even if you don't have so much Earth in your astrological chart, if you have planets in houses that are Earth houses, that can also amplify your resonance with the Earth element. So yeah, but that's astrology. I'm not an expert in that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any more questions? So in conclusion, go out on the Earth. It is really useful. It's important. Our modern day life puts a lot of pressure on us, a lot of our electrical circuitry, the different toxins and pollutants around, many things. We've lost connection with the Earth, and we can simply rectify this by going out on the Earth or getting some grounding products, but making that effort to do that will put us in a much better state of harmony and health. And through this connection with the Earth will allow this free electron flow up our body, balancing the free radicals which come from this toxic way of living, and reducing thus any inflammatory processes which can occur, and many other beneficial effects on our structure. So next talk will be about the water element, and will be given by Austin, who will speak about the wonders of water, and will also be giving some practical advice how we can resonate with the water element and reach a bigger state of harmony and good health. And that's on the Friday, the 26th of March. Good.
What
So
about tree hugging's pretty good if you don't want to take your shoes off in the park, yeah?
Tree hugging's great, but tree hugging's great, but even better if you can hug the tree naked, because we're talking about how the direct contact of the skin on the tree. That's a little bit more harder than going barefoot. Maybe you have a private garden and you can do this. But yeah, the idea here is that it's very easy to put your feet on the Earth. Good. So I wish you all a beautiful night, and yes, and good experiences going barefoot in nature. Night, night.
Thanks for telling me.
Bye.
Thank you, Magdalena.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.